Good evening. Today is March 25th, 2026. Regular meeting of the Murrieta Planning Commission is called to order. Would the secretary call roll for determination of a quorum, please?
Thank you, Commissioner. Chair Vrooman.
Here.
Vice Chair Wojcik.
Here.
Commissioner LaPaglia.
Here.
Commissioner Rose.
Here.
Commissioner DeSena. Let the record reflect all members are present with the excused absence of Commissioner DeSena.
All right, thank you. This now moves us on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Wojcik, would you please lead us?
Put your hand over your hearts. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, it's been a bit since we've had our last Planning Commission meeting. I want to say about 5 months or so ago. And so it's now time to choose the election of officers here, beginning of 2026. So Madam Secretary, if you would, could please preside for the selection of the chair.
Thank you, Chair Vrooman. We will now move on to the selection of the chair. For the record, all planning commissioners were provided the selection of the presiding officers pursuant to Section 1.3A of Planning Commission Resolution PC 2020-12. The order will be as follows. As the Planning Commission Secretary, I will deem all planning commissioners are equal basis to nominate and elect nominations to not require a second and are non-debatable. There may be more than one nomination. If there is more than one nomination, there will be a paper ballot vote. A motion and a second is required to close nominations. Upon closing of nominations, I will do a roll call vote. Upon the election of the new chair, they will take the center seat. Following the election of the chair will be the election of the vice chair. The new vice chair will preside over the process in the same manner upon the vice chair's election. They will take the seat directly to the right of the chair, with the new commissioner sitting directly next to the city planner and one next to the vice chair. Before we begin selection of the chair, are there any members of the public who would like to comment regarding this item? Seeing none, are there any questioners from the commissioners? I now deem you all on equal basis. Do I hear any nominations for chair?
Well, I'd like to start to see, do we have to change or can we re-elect Chair Vrooman?
You do not have to go through the process at all. If somebody wants to make a motion to retain everything in the way it was from last year to this year, you could do it all in one simple motion if you want.
Okay. Well, Chair Vrooman, I thought you did an excellent job with the 2 or 3 meetings that we had. As far as I'm concerned, I'd like to keep it how it is if you're willing to continue as chair.
I would. I just don't want to deny anybody else the opportunity if anybody else wanted to do it, but I'm certainly willing to stand in.
Okay. Well,
so it was an abbreviated 2025.
Yeah, it definitely was. I'm happy to do it, but I don't prefer or care to do it. So I'm good.
I think historically it would be me next. I'm being presumptuous.
Yeah.
Yes.
We didn't meet a lot last year, and I kind of feel bad that we didn't. We didn't see enough of your mistakes while you were chair.
Nothing was exposed.
So I have no objection if you wanted to do it again, and I'll get my turn.
Okay.
I have no objection either.
Well, okay. I have no objection, and as a city attorney said, that we could do the chair and vice chair at the same time if we so chose.
Somebody would need to make that motion.
Well, I'm happy to make the motion to elect Commissioner Vrooman as Chair Vrooman and Commissioner Wojcik as Vice Chair.
I'll second that motion.
I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Vrooman.
Aye.
Vice Chair Wojcik,
Aye.
Commissioner LaPaglia,
Aye.
Commissioner Rose.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Congratulations.
Well, I wonder if that's congratulations or what, but no, I appreciate it. Thank you for the confidence, and hopefully we'll have some more meetings in 2026. So with that, since nobody's moving spots, I don't know if there's a need for a recess to move computers or do anything like that, so we could just move on with the rest of the agenda, I
Yes.
suppose. Okay, if you're set up for that, for the electronic voting. So are there any changes to the agenda?
Seeing none.
Okay, with that, I'll call for a motion in a second to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Well, I'll go ahead and make the motion, and then Commissioner Rose is seconding the motion. How about that?
I'm sorry, who motioned?
I'll go ahead and make the motion, and Commissioner Rose will be the second.
Do you guys see it?
I do,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Motion carries unanimously 4-0.
Okay, that moves us on to public comments. At this time, we'll take public comments. Any person may address the Planning Commission on any subject pertaining to city business, which does not relate to any item on the agenda or the consent calendar. Normally, no action may be considered or taken by the Planning Commission on any matter not listed on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Madam Secretary, do we have any non-agenda public comments?
Seeing none.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. We're now moving on to the approval of minutes. The approval of minutes. Do we have minutes published for the August 13th, 2025 and October 22nd, 2025? So that was last meeting that we had, was October 2022. Madam Secretary, are there any members of the public requesting to speak on the approval of the minutes?
Seeing none.
Okay, I'd like to call for a motion and a second to approve the minutes, and it'd be both minutes for both meetings.
That's correct.
I'll move approval of the minutes for both meetings.
I'll second.
Motion passes unanimously 4-0.
Okay, very good. This moves us on to our public hearing. The French Valley Crossings Development Agreement, DA 2026-00006. Are there any members of the Planning Commission that wishes to abstain or recuse themselves from this item? Seeing none, we'll move on to the staff presentation. And Mr. Chantarantsu, please go forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and congratulations to you and Vice Chair Wojcik for being reelected. So it's great to see all of you. I know it's been a while. The item that I have to present for you this evening is a development agreement for a retail project known as the French Valley Crossings. And so just by way of orientation, the subject property is about a 10-acre site. It's the property that's got the yellow star located over it. And so it's at the very extreme boundary, I would say, of the city's northeast area. So you can see on the map the yellow line, which represents the city's limits. And then outside of that line is unincorporated Riverside County. And then in the map inset, you can see the little red star that's got the location relative to the rest of the city. And so this is, you get the map on the right that just is a little bit of a blow up, but just to give you some project history for the development. So the project was reapproved in 2020 by the Planning Commission after it had expired, and there were various site plan modifications and extensions that have carried it forward through to today. Earlier, staff granted its final extension, which will expire in 2026, and that actually happened last year. And so I wanted to point out that back in 2020, there were prior reviews which included, traffic review, air quality, and other environmental impacts. And why that's relevant is because we're not redoing or reopening the environmental impact review process that happened back then. And so part of staff's recommendation, which I'll read at the end, asks the Planning Commission to rely on that 2020 approval, if you will, of the environmental documents, because nothing has changed as a result of this development agreement. And so here's a copy of the approved site plan. I know it's a little hard to read. It's busy because there are actually two easements that kind of run through the site, and those are shown on the approved development plan for reference. Those are going to go away as the development progresses. So they will not be there, just as a point of information. And so if you can read the map, I know it's a little small, I apologize for that. But this is the approved site plan, as I mentioned. It's about 38,000 square feet of retail, and it's got a variety of smaller building pads. There's a car wash located on the site, and other ancillary, retail uses. So this project has been modified a couple of times, I think, from its original approval, and that's typical as developers figure out what their actual development plan is going to be. And just a little bit about development agreements, if you're not familiar with them, they are authorized by state law, and I've given you the government code references there. And then to enable what the state has granted the city the authority to do, development agreements are authorized by the city's development code in chapter 16.54 of the Murrieta Municipal Code. So the development agreement is essentially a contract between the city and the developer. It establishes a guaranteed right to the developer to build, or a vested right. The agreement is transferable. Sometimes what happens is we'll see a developer who either wants to maybe bring on a partner or sell off a portion of a project. They'll add that partner, if you will, to the development agreement and transfer it. And ultimately, the development agreement must be approved by the city council. So in terms of the terms, as a contract, it does have terms. So I mentioned it does extend the approvals of the project for 10 additional years. Otherwise, it will expire in September of this year. It provides for about a 38,000 square foot retail, restaurant, commercial use development. We saw the site plan. The entitlements, which the development agreement preserves, includes a parcel map, includes a development plan, which is basically the mechanism that we use to approve new development. And then there's also a conditional use permit for the car wash. And then what was unique to this site when it was approved originally is there was a variance for a setback along Clinton Keith Road because of some widening that the county was doing there, and they couldn't meet the development standards. So that's what that's about. And then, as I mentioned, the project relies on significant prior analysis that was completed through an environmental impact report that was updated in 2020 with some subsequent minor revisions. So benefits to the city, generally the benefits to the city in ensuring that this development can live on for 10 additional years to allow it to develop Of course, there'll be expanded economic activity. There's job creation, tax revenue, and then from the city's strategic land planning objectives, it creates additional retail in a regional serving commercial land use type of a setting. I didn't show it in the report, but it's mentioned, or on the slides, but it's mentioned in the staff report. The surrounding uses around that particular intersection have started to develop on the county side. Very similar types of uses where you're seeing, retail shopping centers that are starting to develop that essentially serve the Spencer crossings and the unincorporated county area, as well as city residents. So with that brief overview of the project, the staff recommendation is to conduct a public hearing on the development agreement. And the name of the applicant is the French Valley Crossings LP, a California limited partnership, and Phelan Service Station LP, a California limited partnership. And then recommend to the City Council that the proposed development agreement is in compliance with provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act, which is a reference to all the environmental studies that I mentioned before, pursuant to section 15162, and that no further analysis is required under CEQA in connection with the approval of the development agreement. And then also find that the adoption of the development agreement is consistent with the general plan, and then adopt a resolution recommending that the City Council approve the development agreement. And that is attached as an exhibit to the Planning Commission resolution. So with that concludes my presentation, and I will be happy to answer any questions that you have. And I neglected to mention that I've got Aaron Rintamaki, Associate Planner from our department. Aaron has been doing a lot of the heavy lifting on this project. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. I'm going to go ahead and open it up to any commissioner questions of staff, starting with Commissioner LaPaglia to my right.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. So, like in a nutshell, it just seems like we're kind of bringing back to life a project that was approved and anticipated back in 2005. Maybe some of the businesses or structures that they're going to intend on putting there has changed a bit, or with the need of French Valley, and obviously that area is just exploding and has been for the last 10 years and probably will continue for the next 10 years. So it seems like there's a big need for retail shopping and all of your essential businesses up there, from grocery stores to dry cleaning and kind of anything and everything in between. But CEQA is all done, everything. We're not going to open that back up. It's legal to carry that over into today's standards, and nothing's changed. Right, and so the CEQA section that we mentioned, essentially says that there haven't been any changes to the project or the circumstances. So this project has been well analyzed. I mentioned, like, originally 2005 there was an EIR, then it was updated in 2020. And from a CEQA, context, a 5 or 6 year old EIR is not that old, considering how long it takes, projects to start up and build and go through all the, permitting processes and things like that. So if there was a change, we would have not asked you to, recommend this particular section of CEQA, to the City Council. But under our, staff's review, the environmental review is still valid. Okay, well, good to hear. I mean, that's a huge box to have checked. So glad that that's still valid, and we can carry on with the new development for that. Or is there going to be any stoplights added for this development to Clinton Keith and or Winchester? So the answer is yes. I don't know if Aaron, if you have any more detail you want to add to that, but right at we pull up that map. Let me go back to the map. I think it's on that. And it did get cut off, but at Winchester and Clinton Keith, you can kind of see the line work that starts to show up for the signalized intersections. But Aaron, if you have anything you want to add, and that's what's existing, right? Obviously, there's a stoplight at Winchester and Clinton Keith now. So go ahead, Aaron.
Yes, if I may. So we're looking at Clinton Keith and Winchester, and if any of you have driven Clinton Keith Road, we know that it's fully improved, at least to the county standards. What we're looking at here is some widening that will occur with French Valley Crossings project in terms of answering your questions about the traffic signals. There will be one added. However, it already exists at the proposed Porth Road access, which will also eventually lead into Murrieta Marketplace across the street. The main entry drive to French Valley Crossings will be unsignalized.
Okay, and did you say that the proposed Porth Road, that's already signalized,
Yes.
up and functioning?
It's up and functioning. However, when this project is built, modifications will be required.
Okay. And then also they will be, the project will be widening Clinton Keith on the project side to allow like a turn pocket or something into the development?
That is correct, along with other traffic mitigation measures that are part of the approved CEQA document for this project.
Okay. Great. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Rose.
I had just a couple things. I had a problem following the timeline of this project. So it was first approved in 2005?
That was the original approval. And just to, I was trying to save it for the next presentation, but originally this property and then the next item were all approved under one review. And then as you know, Clinton Keith has been recently put through to connect to Winchester. So I think that was finished in 2024. And that's how the two pieces kind of got split off from each other.
The second thing is the deadline or timeline is 10 years from now, so that would be 2036?
So it would be 10 years from the expiration date of the current entitlement, which is September of 2026, so 10 years from that date. So 2036.
So in one of your earlier slides, I thought I read it said final extension?
Correct. So staff is only able to approve a certain number of extensions pursuant to the municipal code. So the development agreement would is allowed to grant additional time to the developer. State law allows that, and the development code also recognizes that. So they're going beyond what the municipal code allows, which is what the development agreement process supports.
So that's a generational project.
It's taken a long time, to be sure.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Wojcik.
Yeah, so if this is granted, it's going to be 2036. The last development agreement was from 2020, so it's a 16-year span. I guess my question is, why 10 years? So if things change between now and then, we're kind of locked into this agreement because of that lengthy extension. And I don't know, has the city ever entertained, let's do a 5-year with a 5-year extension to be exercised upon the approval of the city, just in case things do change that you need to incorporate into the development agreement, because we don't know, I don't know what's going to happen 10 years from now.
Right, yep. No, it's a great question. So we did talk about possibly a shorter time period. And, if you think about the history of this project, in 2005, when it was originally approved, 3 years later, you had the Great Recession, right? 2008, everything stopped. And then, at least in the area that I was working in at the time, you really didn't see development start to really come back, for about 7-8 years. And, all the financing markets had to get kind of sorted out. And so retail changed. At that time, retail was changing. It's still changing. COVID, happened. So, if you think about what's happened in the last 20 years, there's been a lot that's happened, and that's affected retail. And so as we thought about it and what the future land planning, might be, we went back to the city's general plan and looked at the area, how it was developing, looked at the county's side of the, of their boundary. I mean, it's being developed with a lot of homes. So we considered those kinds of factors, and we thought that although we did consider originally a shorter time period, we ultimately landed at 10 years. And, there's no real trick or analysis that you could do, but, we kind of threw a bunch of things and kind of try to read the tea leaves of what might happen in the future. And ultimately, if there's going to be a change in the city's general plan, we thought about that, and we thought that was still the best use for the property. And so that having a development agreement, the commission may or may not know. I mean, it takes a long time to go through an entitlement process. And so this helps the development community with preserving their rights, and it gives them guarantees. That's what they want, is certainty. And so it gives them assurances moving forward that they have the right to build on the property. But that's not to say that they couldn't change, this development. It could come, as retail changes, continues to change, and, companies have different retail strategies or location requirements. This site plan could be, different by the time it gets built, but at least it locks in their entitlement for the next 10 years. So I hope that answers your question. Sorry, it was a little bit long-winded.
Couple questions here. So you mentioned one. Is there a maximum amount of extensions that could be given? I mean, under city code or state law that says, okay, 20 years, 30 years, what's the maximum allowed?
So under the municipal code, under the I'll just call the normal, development code allowances, there's an initial 3-year period that a project is valid for, and then they can apply for additional extensions. So this project has run its course on what the municipal code allows, and then I mentioned state law allows for a time period, beyond that, where the city can allow, an additional, I'll just say like a vested right to develop a property, and that's what this development agreement is doing. The applicant has run out of the city-approved extensions, and now they're asking the commission and the council to rely on state law to allow the additional time period for the property to develop.
And is there a maximum with state law? So is this the one extension for state law, or could it go another 10 years and they come back and ask for another?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Early because I've got two numbers. I don't remember which one is the right one.
Curiosity, yeah.
So as long as we're processing it in this manner through a development agreement, which is a legislative act by the council, then there's no, in effect, no limit. They're just going to be reapproving it or extending it each time. That's different from what staff or this commission's abilities to do, which are hamstringed by the municipal code.
Right. But in 10 years from now, if there was another need, it still didn't, they could come back for another extension under state law, and they could.
Theoretically, however, as we discussed at the outset, there could be new CEQA challenges.
Sure.
There could be new, that make it more complicated than a
Right.
simple extension of a DA. But yes, theoretically, that could still happen.
And just for the sake of anybody watching, whatever, if this were to expire, let's say either there wasn't a vested interest by the city or the property owner, and it just expired, it would just start the whole process all over again.
It'd start from square one. Yep.
Okay. And then, of course, this is always the question. Could there be at some point in time, let's say multifamily housing there? Right now it's zoned commercial. It's what is envisioned and has been envisioned since 2005. I want to say when I was on the police department, they were talking about a home improvement store on, between one of those properties way back when. So
Right.
that was the envisioned, with big shopping centers, of course, things have changed, the market's changed, those type of things like that. But back to my question, could that change? And now all of a sudden we end up with something that maybe we don't want?
Well, I like to say never.
Yeah.
And so that was actually one of the potential uses we thought, like the site might accommodate. And so, make a long story short, I mean, we're about to go through our housing plan in about another, 3 or 4 years. And, we were considering, whether or not this site should be available for housing if the council wanted to go in that direction. So that's kind of the genesis of the, the initial 5-year, limit. But French Valley Airport is nearby, and so this property is within the flight path, and so that pretty much wiped out the consideration for housing because it wouldn't have met the airport land use plan. So anyway, one way to think about it is we're locking this in for 10 years for non-housing, development, and so it kind of takes it off the books, even though the airport land use plan for French Valley probably does that anyway.
Right, which is where I was going with this. So there's an advantage to that. So
Yes, definitely.
okay. With that, any questions or any comments from the applicant? I open up to the applicant at this time. And if you could please state your name and for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Jack Kaftarali. I'm the general partner for the project. Thank you for taking the time. I'd like to start by thanking actually both Aaron, David, and the whole city staff. Been working on this for years. Thank you very much for putting all this together. Let me try to address some of the questions you guys had. Actually, the biggest question was the timing, right? Why? Well, I wasn't the guy from 2005. I only bought this property in 2016. And honestly, Clinton Keith was the biggest problem. If you look at your parcel, we don't have access from Winchester. We don't have access from Clinton Keith. We just recently got it. So up until now, up until the last year, we couldn't have built anything here. Nobody could get to the property. We were landlocked, basically. So really, that puts that question to bed. Nobody waited, 20 years to get going. In fact, Aaron, I think we're on our third civil submittal, right, for the property. The civil package has been already submitted for CDs, for construction drawings. We actually plan to start construction hopefully later this year. So that really puts to bed all your questions about the timeline. We've been anxiously waiting for 10 years. I've owned the property and just been sitting on it waiting for Clinton Keith to be put in. So we've already submitted third, and I think we're about to submit our fourth submittal for the civil plans. And we couldn't really get going with the architectural. We just got our substantial conformance. As David said, over the years, the site plans change, the uses change, the demand changes. So we've modified the site plan to today's demands. We're actually going to be the operators of the gas station. We will also be the operators of the car wash. We're a family-owned business. My son is actually here with me. And the rest just got the substantial conformance approval just happened in February, a month ago. So with that, we've already hired a whole team. We're putting together the construction drawings for the rest of the center. We're hoping, if the city helps us with the plan checks, that we can actually break ground before the end of the year. So if you have any other questions I can answer for you, I'm right here in available.
Any questions of the applicant?
I don't think any questions, but thanks for the clarification and, an understanding about it. It's definitely a task to get to the finish line. So glad you stuck with it. And I think it'll be a nice development in that area personally. So
I appreciate it.
Good luck with the rest of it, but that's it.
Commissioner Rhodes?
No comments or questions now?
Commissioner Wojcik?
Yes, thank you for the clarification.
Oh, you bet.
Yes, thank you for the clarification. It makes sense. Couldn't do anything with it, landlocked, and now that Clinton Keith actually goes all the way through to Winchester there, it makes a lot of sense. So,
well, we hope to make the city proud, so, okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we'll go ahead and open up for public testimony. It is 6:35. Madam Secretary, do we have any public comments, starting with proponents, then opponents, then those neutral in that order?
Seeing none.
Okay, no public comments, so that'll close the public hearing. Same time. open it up to my colleagues here if there's any comments before we make a motion, or if someone is willing to make a motion.
No comments from me.
No comments for me.
Nothing for me either, so I'll go ahead and make a motion. And Mr. Steele, would you be so kind to read the...
I'm out of practice. Let me load it up
yeah,
here. No, I got it. Staff.
Motion?
Yeah, staff recommends the commission conduct a public hearing on a development agreement with French Valley Crossings LP, California Limited Partnership, and Phelan Service Station LP, California Limited Partnership. Recommend that the city council that the proposed development agreement is in compliance with the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines, section 15162, and that no further analysis is required under CEQA in connection with the approval of the development agreement. Find the adoption of the development agreement is consistent with the general plan, and adopt a resolution recommending the city council approve the development agreement.
As stated, that would be my motion.
And I will second.
Second by Commissioner LaPaglia.
Chair Ruman.
Oh, I pushed it, didn't go through it. There you go.
Yeah, we got the vote up here.
Oh, okay, it's 4-0.
Motion carries unanimously, 4-0.
Okay, very good. This brings us on to our second item, similar. Murrieta Marketplace Development Agreement, DA 2026-00008. And are there any members of the Planning Commission that wishes to abstain from this project? Seeing none, we'll move on to staff presentation. And back to you, Mr. Chancharatsu.
There we go. All right. So this presentation is going to sound a little familiar. And so this is a development agreement for the Murrieta Marketplace. So the subject property is about 49 acres and zoned regional commercial. I think I understated the impact that the extension of Clinton Keith had on the development of these properties. So you can see actually in this aerial that Clinton Keith doesn't exist yet. And now obviously it's there. But I think this is back from 2005 when a lot of that area was still developing. So obviously it's the property with the yellow star over it. And same project history. We had a project that expired from 2005 and it was reapproved in 2018. As with any retail project, there were site plan modifications and extensions. So this project's timing is a little bit different than the French Valley Crossing. So we granted the final extension and it actually expires in June of 2026 in about 3 months. So if in order to preserve the rights for the developer to continue on with this project, time is of the essence to get this development agreement to the city council. So, again, the prior reviews included, traffic, air quality, and all the other environmental impacts that you would expect with a large shopping center. So this is the approved site plan. It anticipates 5 development phases. So you see a lot of, retail pads and restaurant pads oriented toward Clinton Keith, which is on your left, and Winchester Road, which is at the bottom of the screen. And so you also see, larger retail development footprints. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if this site plan continues to evolve as the market changes and there's change in retail demand and so on and so forth. And so the applicant will have the ability to modify the site plan if needed. But until then, the development agreement, would preserve the applicant's right to develop the site plan as shown there. And again, all the authorities that development agreements have pursuant to state law and the city's municipal code, again, it has to be approved by the city council. Terms are the same, 10-year development agreement. The difference is we're talking about a 518,000 square foot, shopping center with retail, restaurant, and commercial uses. For this particular project, there was a development plan, which again is how we approve new development in terms of the approved site plan and the square footages. There was also a couple of conditional use permits that were related to a Home Depot, although I don't think a Home Depot is going to be part of this project moving forward. But like I said, never say never. And also, again, like French Valley Crossings, we're relying on the completed environmental analysis that was done when this project was reapproved back in 2018. So again, benefits to the city, expanded economic activity, job creation, tax revenue, and it achieves the vision of the general plan to have regional type commercial uses on the project site. So your recommendation is to conduct a public hearing on the development agreement with, and the applicant is different, but it's the same, the entity is different, but it's the same applicant. To approve the development agreement with Murrieta Marketplace Holdings LP, a California limited partnership, Bonsall Service Station LP, a California limited partnership, and Scott Murrieta Service Station LP, a California limited partnership as tenants in common. And then recommend to the City Council that the proposed development agreement is in compliance with the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act under Section 15162, and that no further analysis is required under CEQA in connection with the approval of the development agreement. Find that the adoption of the development agreement is consistent with the general plan, and then adopt a resolution recommending that City Council approve the development agreement. So once again, thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, with that, open up for questions by the commission to staff. Start again with Commissioner LaPaglia.
If we can go back to the site plan. I mean, this basically feels very similar to the first one, right? Like this is rebirth, kind of reviving a project that was pre-approved and everything stands. Same questions I had earlier as far as the environmental, everything carries over. You explained all that.
Yep.
It looks like there's an entrance exit and like a roundabout that enters and exits onto Winchester. Will that be signalized, or is that just like an open ingress?
Yeah. So if you look at the kind of to the right at the bottom of the screen before the traffic circle, you'll kind of see what looks like maybe an indentation into the curb line. So that's a deceleration lane. So as people are coming off of, Winchester, instead of, and it's a high speed, street, the traffic engineering approach for where you've got a high speed transitioning to a lower speed area to get into a driveway, they provide a deceleration lane, or they're required to have a deceleration lane. So people will be able to get over to the right, slow down, and then make the right turn into the shopping center. So it's one of the traffic mitigation measures that was required for this project.
Okay. I'm sure there's a calculation of that, whatever the speed limit is and length of deceleration and all that.
Yep.
And is that an exit as well back onto Clinton Keith? And is there like an acceleration lane or?
Yeah, it is a right in, right out. And I think that if I remember correctly, Aaron can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe there is a requirement for that type of an improvement. It's just not shown on this site plan.
Okay. A type of improvement for like an acceleration lane?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't go from 0 to 50.
Yeah.
Unless you're, that's not be safe.
It seems a bit unnecessary to have that curb between the right out and basically the turning lane, which would take you on to Clinton Keith.
Yep.
But like you said, small detail that I'm sure you guys will get fixed then. But okay. Well, once again, I think it's a necessary project up there. So, I mean, we've been seeing pipe sitting there since like 2005. So good to see it be put to use. I'm sure they'll get new pipe. But anyways, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Rose.
I don't have any questions right now.
Commissioner Wojcik.
I see this as a cookie cutter from the prior presentation, so no questions.
A couple questions here. I see it's divided up into phases. You got phase one, and there's already a Chick-fil-A there. That's seems like a committed tenant. It's on the on one of the buildings there. The phase two, where that roundabout. This is Winchester Road, not Clinton Keith, correct?
Correct.
So is there a signal on the Winchester Road side? I know there is one on the on the Clinton Keith entrance right there. Is there one right there where that roundabout is on Winchester?
No is a short answer. It's, and which is the reason why it's only, right in, right out.
Okay,
So
okay,
no signal required.
okay, just checking. All right, and then that's all the questions I have here. Would the applicant, again, like to speak on this project? Give you the opportunity.
Raleigh, speaking on behalf of Murrieta Marketplace. I don't have anything to add, honestly. It's the same reasons as before. This one is not moving as quickly as the other one. It's a much larger project and requires a lot more planning on putting together uses. So, but obviously it's expiring this year, and having Clinton Keith just open up last year, that's why the delays.
I think you answered this earlier, but you didn't have any involvement with it originally?
No.
Either project?
No. In fact, I bought this property in 2016.
Right.
So right before, just a few years before COVID, we got it approved in 2018, but then Clinton Keith wasn't open. None of the big box retailers, so to speak, this one requires a lot more. Unlike the other project, that one was landlocked. This one could say, well, you have access from Winchester if you wanted to. You have access from Max Gillis. But everybody knew that Clinton Keith is the other major road here, and all of the large box retailers insisted on having Clinton Keith open before they proceeded.
Sure, makes sense. Cool, thank you.
You bet.
Commissioner Rose, any questions?
Questions, thank you.
Commissioner Wojcik?
Nothing.
The only thing I'd say a little bit longer. Do you have an anticipated timeline, at least for phase one, a few years out at least?
We're working on something right now that puts it together. If that works, hopefully in the next couple of years. If not, then there may be some more delays. So, okay.
All right, very good. Thank you. Okay, this time I'll open it up for public testimony, 647. Madam Secretary, do we have anyone wish to speak? First proponents, opponents, and then neutral.
Seeing none.
All right, that'll again close the public hearing, 648. Any comments?
Nope.
By any of my colleagues here? Looking for a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay.
And if Mr. Steele wants to do us a favor of reading it again?
Sure, Commissioner LaPaglia. So the staff recommendation is to,
Let me second it.
yeah, sorry, go ahead. Thank
I'll
you.
second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Wojcik. Second. Staff recommends the Planning Commission conduct a public hearing on the development agreement with Murrieta Marketplace Holdings, LP, California Limited Partnership. Oh, I lost my recommendation with the motion. Good old, oh, there it is, it's back. Okay. Bonzel Service Station LP, a California Limited Partnership, and Scott Murrieta Service Station LP, a California Limited Partnership, as tenants in common. Recommend to the City Council the proposed development agreement is in compliance with the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act, Guidelines Section 15162. No further analysis is required or sequence in connection with the approval of the development agreement. And finally, adoption of the development agreement is consistent with the general plan. And lastly, adopt a resolution recommending the City Council approve the development agreement.
Motion carries 4-0.
Okay, very good.
If I could just add, Mr. Chairman, your recommendation is going to the City Council on both projects, April 21st.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Timely enough to make it there in time before the DAs expire. Very good. Next item is going to be a workshop, Planning Commission training workshop for new state laws. So it's interesting to find out what the state is going to bring us now.
Tell us everything we cannot do.
Yeah.
It's always fun.
And Mr. Steele, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you for the presentation.
Yeah, good evening from down in the well. Carl Steele, City Planner. I'm here with Chris Tracy, Senior Planner. Chris is kind of our staff who really is in the know on what the legislature is doing most of the time, as much as we can be. Again, last year was another year of record laws being introduced, record number of laws, and a record number of laws for housing and planning related items, which in our business as planners sends our heads spinning. So we like to come in to the commission and typically one of the first meetings of the year, just kind of go through these with you. It's somewhat casual. We had the similar presentation with the DAG a month and a half ago. So feel free to interrupt us if you want to chat about any of the specific laws. You have them in your packet. We're just going to kind of cover the high level ones that we have been kind of keeping an eye on. So let's get into it. So we'll talk about the ones the state recently enacted, and then we do have some that we're kind of watching this year, which could affect things we do later in the year or next year. So big picture, what was the legislature really looking at this last year in 2025? Chris and I attended the statewide planning conference. There was a lot of sessions where we talked about kind of like what the state was looking at. It really had a lot to do with affordability, particularly affordability issues across different types of housing. Obviously, they're still obsessed with housing. We have a record number of housing laws that keep coming about. They're addressing homelessness. Climate comes into a lot of the bills, and we're going to talk about a few of those. That somewhat relates to what we're doing later this year. When we bring the general plan cleanup to you, we will be looking at the climate action plan again, which we looked at a few years ago. So that some of these laws do play into that. And of course, the wildfires were a big deal last year. The state passed a number of laws to address issues that came about from the significant wildfires in LA last year. So with that, on the first slide, one of the ones I wanted to bring attention to, and we were just chatting about this with our consultants on the general plan update, AB 39 creates this local electrification planning act, which starts next year, and no later than 2030, we have to have an electrification plan, decarbonization plan, community energy plan, or similar plan. That is something that we're working on in the general plan cleanup. So we will be addressing this when we bring you forward the updated climate action plan, likely in a few months. So that's just something to have on your radar.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? What
Sure.
is an electrification plan?
Good question. I'm not 100% sure. I would say mostly what they're looking at here is pushing more of the state's agenda to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, which is electrifying more of the state. So getting carbon producing vehicles off the road, so to speak, putting vehicles on the road that are electric or zero emission. Also doing it with home construction, trying to get homes to be less emitting any kind of gas, and homes that are efficiently built with electrical appliances, things like that. So the state's pushing this top down. It's something we have to look at when we work on our climate action plan type documents, and that is something we're working on. So these are things we'll be discussing with you in greater detail when we bring the CAP to you.
Well, and I understand that you guys attended the meeting or whatever, and then are bringing this information to us and digesting it still. But what could a city do to reduce, promote more electric vehicles and reduce carbon gases from vehicles and stuff like that?
There's lots of things the city can do. The city's already done some things like installing vehicle chargers at city buildings, and buying electric vehicles, having a fleet of electric vehicles, sort of taking the lead
For the city, like staff or whatever.
for the city, and then also taking incentives, making incentives for businesses to convert to electric fleets. Giving new businesses that come in that have an electric fleet, maybe they get a reduction in parking if they have an electric fleet, things like that. There's lots of things cities could look at.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Can you tie this into housing, what you would foresee the electrification plan, decarbonization plan, how it would relate to housing?
So related to housing, what we're seeing, and we don't have the building official with me here tonight, Andy could really give you a rundown on that, but we're seeing the state push more and more to reduce So when homes are built with any kind of gas and SoCal gas, if Adam Evantov is listening, he probably doesn't want me to say it, but the state's been pushing in the building code to remove basically the ability for people to use gas appliances, going to electric appliances, pushing for solar, right? There's a solar requirement now. Every new dwelling unit built in the state has solar panels that are put on it. They're sort of trying to synergize all of that. You're also required to put the electric charging infrastructure, the plumbing within your new dwelling units. We, as a city, adopted the EV ordinance, which you adopted, that you helped push to City Council 3 years ago, that requires the actual EV charger in every garage now, too, in the city. So all of those things help reduce emissions because we're going to electric vehicles, electric uses, and obviously, I'll caveat that with there are still power plants that produce the energy. We understand that, but this is what the state's push is, and it relates to these types of bills. And this was a pretty significant one, this AB 39.
And if there's like proof, and I might be speaking above my pay grade, but if there's proof that like, you know, our grid can't support like all this electricity, I understand, I understand solar and I like solar, but if the development can't be supported by the electricity that the state provides or that Edison provides, would that be like a holdup to like approve the development?
I mean, I think those are the kind of things the CPUC is looking at, but from discussions we've had with the utilities keep saying that they can provide the necessary infrastructure. I'm not hearing that the utilities are saying that they can't, although we have, to be honest, we have seen delays in SCE being able to deliver the infrastructure to new projects just in our city. But most of what we've heard from SCE is that's related to the fires and the demand on trying to keep up with the new construction that's been going on in LA over the past year. But we have seen some delays in them keeping up with getting our new homes energized in the city.
Yeah.
They'll never say no. No, it'll just be, when they can't handle it, then it'll just be rolling blackouts like they do in the summertime. So do you know anything about or anything new as far as changes goes to with swimming pools and gas heaters and those type of things like that?
I think Andy might be able to give you more information on that if we bring the building official at some point. I know there's been some changes there, but they are pushing efficiency across all the different types of uses that people use. So they're pushing for heat pump replacements instead of AC units. There's a number of things like that.
So there's no restriction that a new housing would have to be, you couldn't plumb any gas there. There would be certain appliances that wouldn't be plumbed for natural gas.
Yeah, I don't know the details. We don't have the building official here, so I don't want to speculate, but I know that in general, the state's pushing more and more that way. Every time there's a building code update, we're seeing that they're going more electric.
Of course they are.
Yeah. And then I'll let Chris was going to mention another one on this slide.
Yeah, well, thank you, Carl. So we got AB 301. So this makes state agencies subject to the same time limits as the city for the post-entitlement phase for permit review related to residential. So say if we have to have a project reviewed and issued permits within 60 days, Caltrans has to do the same. Department of Fish and Wildlife, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, if they have permits for that, they have to do the same thing. So it's actually a good thing. It's going to speed up the state in terms of getting things processed on their end.
So we're seeing the states starting to push shot clocks on, they pushed a lot of shot clocks on local cities, but now that it seems like they're starting to put shot clocks on their own agencies too, which is nice. Probably a good thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is probably as a direct result of like the Palisades or Altadena and things like that, where there's virtually no, here we are a year and 2 months into it, and there's very, very little building there based upon the red tape of all either government agencies or, utilities and the likes.
So out there you would have the Coastal Commission. They have a very expedited process for rebuilding. They're a state agency as well. Right. So you've got that scenario right now, and it's a thing that the state realizes that needs to be dealt with.
That's an astute comment. Yeah, I mean, the state's looking at, they're pushing us so much to issue permits, but then we issue a permit and then something gets held up at another agency and it just sits there, and they're not motivated to get things approved, right? So it seems like it's fair, right, if we're going to give everybody shot clocks, right?
Yeah, totally.
So which state agency tends to come across your guys' desk most frequently for development?
That's a good question.
Probably Fish and Wildlife, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, if there's a biologically sensitive area.
And they have, I mean, we can attest, all of us have worked in planning for multiple decades. They've been able to effectively halt projects with their shenanigans. So these kind of things can be good to help get projects built.
And it's funny, I've always thought, like, from an outsider looking in, that you're right, they do halt projects, but rarely does it seem like it actually eliminates the project. Like, it just slows it down dramatically, but they still, most of the time, end up building exactly what they wanted to build or close to what they wanted to build. Instead of it taking a year, it takes 20 years. But
yeah, I've seen some projects really, I mean, sometimes it seems like they feel like the delay might be enough to kill the project. But
Yeah.
I agree with you. Oftentimes, if a developer's willing to stick with it, they can get through it.
right.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see a biologist move fast.
Yeah, and so Fish and Wildlife, like
and
and
Wildlife, if
Army
they're-
Corps of Engineer, like they'll all, well, that's federal, right? But yeah.
Army Corps is federal.
It's California Fish and Wildlife.
Chris mentioned the Coastal Commission too. This,
Yeah.
for those folks that work in the coastal cities, this is a good thing.
Yeah.
The commission can be very slow as well, and it's the Coastal Commission, so it's good to see.
That's good.
They're getting pushed a bit too. This does put some of the agencies on notice to look at hiring too and make sure they're staffed up to handle the volume of projects in some areas, especially Southern California, as you can imagine. You know, in the SCAG region, we're the busiest part of the state when it comes to this type, development. And so they've got to be staffed up and ready to go. Sometimes these agencies are more Northern California heavy and they tend to neglect us. So this kind of puts them on notice there too.
So I was just wondering if the state, in presenting all these different requirements, reconciles the goals. So affordability is one, but electrification is another that seems to be slightly inconsistent.
I tend to agree, Commissioner Rose, it doesn't seem like it always works, but it's sort of like, I guess, if you think of the national politics, sometimes you have conflicting, groups here coming up with different things and they pass them all, right? Or they don't pass any of them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so, yeah. All right, let's hop on to the next one here.
All right, so we've got AB 610, housing elements. So just we're having to do more disclosures there, nothing too great there. AB 648, you got if we had a community college, they would be exempt from being required to adhere to certain zoning requirements, like with setbacks, building heights, and stuff like that. If they have on-campus housing, some community colleges are doing that these days.
You can see there were a few laws. I think there's another one we cover later that related to this. There's been problems with some of the universities trying to expand and people fighting the campuses basically expanding into their neighborhoods. And so the state's kind of coming down heavy on this and essentially exempting dormitories and expansions of colleges into the neighborhoods, making it exempt from the city's zoning. This came up in San Diego. Chris and I both had experience working in San Diego. This has come up around San Diego State because they've been expanding into their neighborhoods. And so these kind of bills, basically make it so they can expand without having to comply with zoning.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. All right. This is one I wanted to spend a little bit of time on. So Buffy Wicks, who we saw speak at the planning conference, did this one, AB 712, is basically, this kind of aligns with the state continuing to sort of ratchet up on enforcement, and we're seeing this more and more. So if you don't, and this, we've warned you before, we have the same commission here we had last year, so we talked about this last year, but the state is pushing a lot of fines if we don't approve housing projects. And this kind of is another one here, where essentially if the housing authority, the HAA fines are mandatory, now they're fined by a factor of 5. So they're increasing the amount. So we talked last year, I think, about a $10,000 fine per unit. So this would be a $50,000 fine per unit. So they're ratcheting up the fines. And then they're changing the statute of limitations too, to bring a challenge. So it's not just 30 days like it used to be, or sometimes even less if it's an exempt project. Now they're giving people a longer time to challenge. So
What do you think stimulated this to be brought into law?
So we heard the person who wrote this bill, we heard her speak at the planning conference, and they're looking to continue. I would be honest, it seems like they're looking to scare cities and counties more and more with with the way they're passing these laws, telling us that if you don't approve the housing projects that you have that come into you, we will go after you and we will fine you. And we're seeing that, the Attorney General's going after cities out there. You can see that in the news. So it's just a reminder, and these laws, they continue to pass them. So we just want to be sure that, we all understand these are the risks that cities run, and we don't want to run into these problems.
So, yeah, so that it seems as if these people at the state legislature, they're not happy with the results from the last 5 years of all the apartments and all the living and all the housing that's been approved across the state.
I agree, Commissioner LaPaglia. You would think they would be. We have made significant strides across the state. There are a lot of units have been built. Obviously, a lot of units have been built in Murrieta.
Yeah.
But it's still not enough, apparently. Yeah.
The reality is they want to bring the problems of urban society to the suburbs.
Yeah.
And we've had master plan communities. We've gotten smart over the past several decades of doing things better so that we didn't have problems that were in the inner cities and crime-related problems, and the way that housing kind of did that. And they see it as unfair, and they need to spread the wealth, so to speak, and bring those problems out here to the suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with any cities that did get heavily fined last year?
I'm trying to think, Chris.
Probably Huntington Beach.
I know they did go after Huntington Beach. Yeah. I think Encinitas ended up backing down. Encinitas did attempt to fight with their housing element, and they eventually adopted it. But yeah, there have been cities that have been fined. I just don't have them in front of me. I know there have been.
Yep. Mr. Chair, if I could just add, because we follow this, very closely, because we want to make sure we're informed. So Beverly Hills came, I think, within an eyelash of losing their ability to issue.
Yeah, that's right.
Because they did not have a compliant housing element. I know we're talking about housing projects here, but the state is really finding ways to leverage cities to remove their building permit issuance authority, fines. So it's just, the overall strategy is to basically eliminate local control over housing decisions, except for a very, very, very small window.
And I guess to piggyback a little bit off David's comments, Beverly Hills is the city also, as he was alluding to, their housing element was non-compliant for years. Right? We adopted ours in 2023. They continued to not adopt their housing element, and they had projects that came in under what's called the builder's remedy. And one of the projects that's still getting pretty significant coverage, I believe they've issued the building permits. I think it's going to be under construction soon. It was in a neighborhood of single-family homes, 2-story homes. A 14-story apartment building was processed under the builder's remedy, and that builder's going to build that 14-story apartment building. The city's been fighting it. I think they've lost at every turn. So that's the risk you run if you don't play the game, so to speak, with the state and make sure you're getting your things done on time. So I will make a promise to you as a city planner. I'm going to bring you the housing element on time, and we're going to get it done on time so that we don't run that kind of a risk. And last time we worked as hard as we could to get you the housing element as soon as we could, and we avoided getting into that kind of a situation. Obviously, we're not Beverly Hills, we're in a different place, but we still don't want to be in a situation where, people can take advantage of those types of laws and do something we don't want to see. So I'll leave it at that. We'll go on to the next one.
Yeah. So we got AB 752. This allows child daycare centers, say at an apartment complex. It's allowed by right. They don't have to pay any business license fees or anything associated like that to the city.
And then another one, AB 818, this is related to the fires, as you can imagine. So they passed a law that basically says that you can do manufactured homes, prefab homes, or ADUs, rebuilding on properties that destroyed by a disaster, and that you have to approve the building permits within 10 days of receipt of a complete application. So that was like really ratcheting up on those folks rebuilding from the fires in LA and letting people rebuild. So kind of relates to the wildfires last year.
I'm actually okay with that one.
Yeah, I mean,
it's your home.
It can be a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I would just caution, that some of the more well-funded cities out there, it's not that hard for us maybe to process a permit, but some of the smaller cities, it can be difficult to get a permit issued in 10 days if they don't have a lot of staff. But I agree with you, Commissioner. And on this one, I'll turn it over to Chris on this one.
Sure, yeah. So we've got AB 1061 on here. This is a follow-up on SB 9. So there was a limitation on historical sites to be able to do urban lot splits with Senate Bill 9. So that's where someone can come in, they could split their lot, they could add 2 duplexes if they want, and a bunch of ADUs.
And then on AB 893, this relates to the other one we talked about. This it exempts, basically ministerial approval is there's no discretion. So within a half mile of a campus, it's just this campus development zone. A city would have to approve a housing project.
And then also, we already kind of meet this with AB 920. Cities have to have a centralized application portal for processing residential projects. I mean, everything's going to be, automated moving forward.
We've looked at that, and we think we're in compliance, as Chris was saying. The building official worked on this years ago. People submit their permits online, but you can imagine this is difficult there are cities out there that are still kind of in the Stone Age that do things with paper. Some cities have been kind of put on notice out there that they've got to, ratchet up and do things quicker.
So back to you mentioned 893 there. So, for, I don't know, a decade or more, the city's been, kind of contemplating attracting a state university here. So this would almost kind of serve as a disincentive by having a university. Now with all the restrictions and the housing that come along with it, it may not be such a great idea to have a state-run university somewhere in our jurisdiction.
It's something to think about, Chair Bruman. I think it's something we need to be careful about wherever we think we might want to put some type of university or community college or whatever it might be, or college. We might want to be careful thinking about, well, how far out does this half mile go where we might end up with any kind of housing, right? Something to think about.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Sorry if I could just add to that. I mean, one of the things to also be aware of is as light rail, more efficient transit gets added, the state is really focusing on adding housing around transit centers. And so we don't have that type of transit here currently, but in the years to come, we could see, and RCTC is already talking about it, adding express busways or light rail lines down the freeway corridors.
Well, if you just look to Bakersfield and Modesto, it might not happen for a long time by the time you get a rail unit. But again, unintended consequences.
We'll see. All right. Sorry, go ahead,
Just real quick, AB 1050 and lawfully restricted covenants, housing developments, are they talking about CC&Rs or some other kind of restricted covenants there?
So it prohibits the use of covenants that restrict housing based on race, ethnicity, religion, or other protected classes.
Isn't that already the law?
It's current law, yeah.
Okay.
And it basically, if there's an old covenant on that site that kind of had a restriction, it removes that.
Yeah, so there was a discussion about this at the planning conference that Chris and I were at, where there are cities out there that have these old covenants on properties, and the understanding is this essentially invalidated many of those, and that there are old developments out there that are scrambling to rewrite their agreements as we speak, or in the last few months because of this law.
Yeah, it's not so much a change in what's allowed or not allowed, it's a change in the process. They're just automatically void now. You no longer have to take proactive steps to go through a process to remove them. They're gone.
They're just removed.
Gone.
Yeah. Thanks for that, City Attorney. All right, we'll get on to the next one here. Let's see, Chris,
Let's see. So we got land use. The regional. So SB 233, Ciardo.
Yeah, we wanted to mention that one, our former council member. So essentially, we thought this was a good one that Kelly Ciarto did, SB 233. Essentially, when we look at the RENA coming up, there's a required consultation now with the regional COG. So that would be WR-COG in this case. SCAG can't just dump it on us. So we thought that was a good thing that Kelly's sort of looking for more synergy and getting local input into the RENA process. So we really appreciate that he did that one.
Yeah. And I think we can just go next one.
Yeah, we'll slide on to the next one here.
So with SB 507, so we don't have this here, but cities that have tribal reservation areas that overlap into the city limits, those units can count towards their RENA numbers. So someplace like Temecula, if there's an area on that south end, that would help them out. So SB 611 here, you have where a court can't invalidate a development project if it's already been determined complete through processing with the city. So that kind of stops, certain projects being able to be stopped by neighborhood groups or things of that nature.
And then SB 625 was another one that came out of the fires, essentially streamlining the reconstruction for people in the LA area. Yeah. Which I think is it is a good thing, but definitely putting a shot clock on it and trying to push people to get those units rebuilt, push those cities to act. And then, I'll talk briefly about the ADU laws. As you can imagine, the state passed a number of new ADU laws. They can't stop touching ADUs. So we think we're pretty well covered on these, but I don't know if Chris has any detail to add on them, but essentially, they're just tweaking the ADU standards that are out there. We're still seeing a decent clip of ADUs every year. We're doing a few, but we're not doing an inordinate amount of them. We do have some larger projects now that are going to be building them. The Gearson project, which came before you, has I think about 70 ADUs in it. But most of these standards don't really relate to those. These are more like related to very specific situations.
Yeah, and to highlight like AB 1154, it deals with junior ADUs. So right now, with a junior ADU, you have to have the owner be present there, and typically those are an ADU that shares a bathroom with the inside of the home. So it eliminates the owner occupancy requirement if the JADU has its own bathroom, which is helpful, and then prohibits any parking requirements for ADUs less than 500 square feet. So the driveway space would count as a parking space typically. It's not so much of an issue here because we have parking in our driveways, but in other areas that are more urbanized, there's a lack of parking in San Diego and LA in those situations.
And you can see on SB 543, that's another shot clock tick up there where they're saying once you determine that application is complete, you got to issue that ADU faster, city, right?
Question on that. If you live in an HOA or CCNRs that don't allow ADUs, does this like supersede that?
The state already did away with that.
Yep.
Commissioner LaPaglia, that was a few years ago. I'm trying to think, it's been at least, I think, 3 years now that they essentially did what the city attorney was talking about with the other law. They basically invalidated all HOAs. You can do an ADU anywhere in the state, any single family zone.
Cool.
Yep. All right. Keep it moving here.
All right. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
I'll speak to some of these mobile home laws. So AB 391. So this is just a new noticing requirement when a mobile home owner has to, I guess, issue a correction or something for a tenant. I guess previously it's just been going to the owners of the mobile home, but not to the tenant itself that's living there. So that's just a cleanup there. AB 456 provided an extended timeline from 10 to 15 days from management when there's a sale of a mobile home, if there's repairs needed. And then you have, lastly, AB 806, which prohibits mobile home management from banning window air conditioning units, swamp coolers, heat pumps, and similar things. So some parks only allow for centralized AC units, but the state's doing away with that requirement.
Interesting. They said these kind of things have become issues. And we'll go on to the next one here. So they did do some fee changes. I'm not going to go into detail on those. And then I think we want to mention a little bit about some of the housing regs there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have AB 628. So now there's a requirement for stove and refrigerators to be maintained in good working order in order for a unit to be habitable. So a landlord has to make sure that's always the case.
It's interesting that wasn't in state law, but that's in state law now. So if it doesn't count as a unit if they don't work.
Yeah. So
something for our building official, our building inspectors to be sure of.
Yeah, and I'll just mention on the development fees, there's a mandatory reduction in traffic impact fees, but it has to be like in a transit overlay area. There's some other criteria with that. So some applicants this might be something that will come into play more in the future and with other jurisdictions.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll keep going here.
There's more?
There's more.
We can wrap it up. We can wrap it up. You guys seemed excited at first, but maybe not so much now.
Now I was just getting sad.
I can speak to some of these. So this is, all right. So
We haven't even gotten to the ones that are coming this year.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Can't wait.
AB 1308. So this requires a 10-day final inspection once a project wraps up.
So some people might think this is a good thing. Some people might not. Some cities are going to struggle with this. I don't think we are, but it essentially is once it's time for us to do our final inspection, we have to do it within 10 days.
And the next one here, SB 655. So new buildings have to be built with extra insulation, better windows, because the maximum indoor temperature can only hit 82 degrees.
So on this one, you have to think about the Central Valley and Coachella Valley. This might actually be difficult for some of those developments that they have out there. I'm not sure this is going to play a lot here. We don't really get quite as hot as they do, but this relates to some of the issues that they've had out there.
And then finally here, I'll just mention SB 410. So this is, there's a balcony collapse up in Berkeley that happened about 10 years ago. And because of that, there's a new disclosure law on inspections with balconies and stairs. I believe there's an inspection at a yearly point in time ever so often with apartment complexes.
And we do require balconies. It's private open space in our projects, so it does relate to most of our multifamily projects. It would relate. So we'll talk more about the next ones here. I did want to mention AB 253. So basically, if a city can't meet a 30-day plan check timeline, people can hire outside plan checkers now to do it. We don't see this as a problem. I've talked to our building official, Andy Crow, about it. It's not something that we're thinking is going to really affect us, but in some of the places in the state, this is a pretty big deal for the cities that were kind of dragging their feet and not getting things reviewed fast enough.
Yeah, and then AB 1007 here. So reduces the deadline for responsible agencies to approve or deny a project from 90 days to 45 days. So if you need a utility sign off or something like that, they have to, it kind of goes along with that earlier bill we were talking about. And it removes a major bottleneck with Edison and other regional permits.
So it does help some of the other agencies move a little faster here too. So that might be a good thing. And then I definitely wanted Chris to mention the warehouse bill. Always fun.
Yeah, so we have, this is a big one for the Inland Empire. We're not in a warehouse concentration zone, luckily, because they have additional requirements. Those would include the cities of like Riverside, Ontario, Paris to the north of us, and so forth. But as far as it a little bit broader, SB 415 is a cleanup bill. It applies to buildings that are 250,000 square feet or larger. We're going to have to update our designated truck routes in the city. The truck routes have to be away from sensitive receptors. That includes like, hospitals, residential uses, and things of that nature. We're going to have GIS mapping for routes, signs, public outreach process. The law also does require plug-in capacity for loading bays, so trucks can't run their diesel engines when they're idling at the bay. They'll have to plug into the grid.
So this is something that in the general plan cleanup, we're looking at the truck routes. Those will be in there, our updated truck routes, so we'll be covered there. And like Chris said, we're not in the warehouse concentration region, but we're close to it. It's a couple cities north. And then, of course, the state gave themselves the ability to find people more here on this cleanup, which was kind of weird. But they keep playing around with this AB 98. We think there's probably going to mess around with it again this next year. So they're really worried about these large warehouse buildings. One I wanted to spend just a minute on, that's something you'll probably see on the ballot, is the state's working on a housing bond. Most people far and wide think this is a good thing. You know, the state took away redevelopment. Most redevelopment agencies were doing a lot of this work. You know, we still try to do what we can with what we call our successor agency, which is our housing authority. But the state's floating, doing $10 billion with a B dollar housing bond in the fall. Hopefully we could get our hands on some of that funding if it does pass and bring it into our housing authority, which we manage, and get some of that funding into our housing projects. That would be a good thing. And then I'll let Chris mention there's a pretty big CEQA exemption that was also passed this last year, and we're wrapping up on the new ones.
Yeah, this is AB 130. So this is a big one for us. We do have potentially projects that will be affected by this law. So it's a expansion on the infill exemption. It can be up to sites that are 20 acres. There's some restrictions with it. It can't be used in wetlands, in a very high fire zone. However, if there's mitigation measures to offset that, then they could, go in a very high fire zone. Can't be on a hazardous site. There's a minimum of 15 dwelling units per acre to qualify. After the project is determined complete by us, we have to get it to an approval in 60 days. And that also includes the building permit issuance.
We do think we have one project that will likely utilize this in the next few months that we'll probably be bringing to you. So just a heads up on that one.
I feel like the entire state is a high fire zone.
You would think that, but it's not.
No?
I'd say about half the city is, and about half the city is not. It's kind of, I would say a lot of the more built areas in Southern California are not. Like if you think of a lot of the built areas along the freeways are not considered high fire. It's once you get outside them where you get, brush and
Sure.
the wildland interface, that's where we're high fire. So we kind of have both.
Okay.
And then here's the ones we're keeping an eye on. There's only a couple more slides. So just some stuff to keep an eye on that we think will be coming this next year. As we mentioned, that first one, AB 735, they are looking to tweak that warehouse bill again. It's kind of ridiculous. They keep messing with it every year. So we expect something might come there.
Yeah, and so again, AB 1026 sets timelines for utilities to approve permits, has to have average and maximum targets. They have to do a lot more disclosure with the public on any delays.
Kind of a big deal. As we talked about, some of the other bills that were passed this last year, now they're putting sort of the utilities on notice. You can see the state is just plugging away at everyone. Yeah. So might actually be a good thing for some of our local utilities. The city has 4 different water and sewer districts, so it might move some of them to work a little quicker. Some of them are better than others. No offense to any of them if they're listening, but that could help them.
Yeah. And then we got AB 75. So this would prohibit insurance companies from canceling policies within 6 months before sending a notice of decision if there's going to be a change later on.
And then last slide, just a few more things we're looking at. As we just talked about that AB 130, Buffy Wicks this year is also looking at another exemption for multifamily projects. So we expect there might be another one that comes along. So just keep an eye on that. We'll let you know if we get a project if this passes, if we get a project that utilizes that, something to keep an eye on. And then they're also looking at, as we're kind of right in the middle of the housing element cycle, when you look at the state as a whole, Southern California has the most housing elements, right, across the 500 plus jurisdictions in the state. And we're smack dab in the middle. And so the state's really looking at tweaking housing element process, and they're doing a lot of that last year and this year. And so we're seeing a suite of those related bills that they're working on. We expect them to probably pass a number of those this year as SoCal, especially the SCAG region, will be gearing up into the next housing element cycle next year.
Yeah, and then we got SB 569. This would require Caltrans to coordinate better with local governments to remove homeless encampments on highways, and then include outreach officers and provide timelines for dealing with an issue if that comes up. And lastly, we got SB 880. It's a new bill on home housing purchases that will provide, I believe, some affordability options for people.
And that's it. So we appreciate your time and attention. I know it's not always fun to hear about all of them. Some of them, we just want to be sure you're kind of aware of them so that when we bring things to you, you'll understand the context. But appreciate your time. And that's it for us.
I appreciate it. I know for me, I wanted to go to the seminar this year, but it couldn't. Scheduling conflict was out of state at the time. So this closes the workshop here. Now, city planner comments. Carl, would you like to just?
I can do them from down here.
Okay.
No, I really appreciate the commission getting back together. Congratulations to you, Chair Vrooman, on being reelected as chair, and Joe as being reelected as vice chair. Wojciech. We do have quite a bit of work to come to bring to you. I think the next few months you'll see a number of items, some good, exciting stuff. We will likely have an update on the auto mall from Jared Ramaya. We have a revised permit from Aaron Rutamaki probably coming here the next month. We are also working on objective standards updates. Remember, we adopted the objective standards 3 years ago. WRCOG reached out. They had some funding left over that they didn't want to give back to the state, essentially offering us free money to update our objective standards. And so we are already working on that, but we have to get it done by June, which means we have to get to city council by June. So in a few weeks, we'll likely get that queued up for you guys for a workshop. And so we'll be talking about our objective standards. The main goal there, sneak preview, is just to get some additional single-family standards in there and update the multifamily standards. So definitely working on a number of things that'll be coming your way. And something that Chris Tracy here has done a great job on is the Hillside ordinance. Finally got through the 6th workshop with the city council. I think Chair Vrooman was there. That's likely coming back to you so that we can get it back to city council, because we're going to make changes to it. You all heard the Hillside ordinance 3 years ago. This is really just going to be a, hey, we're bringing it back to you to talk about the things that the council asked for in the workshops. So sneak preview on some stuff coming. Just wanted to give you a heads up on those, but appreciate you all being here tonight, and it's good to be back with the commission. And that's it for me, Chair. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much for the updates, Mr. City Attorney.
I have nothing to add other than it's exciting to get the band back together.
That's right.
Feels like it's been a while.
No pun intended there.
Yeah. Planning Commission comments. I'll start on this end. Commissioner Wojciech.
Congratulations to you for being
And you as well.
reappointed. And thank you, staff, for that update. So, I don't know, good news, bad news, whatever you want to call it, but it was an update.
Commissioner
And
Rose.
that's it.
Thank you for the update.
Commissioner LaPaglia.
Yeah, Sam, thanks for the update. Good to see everybody, and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Ditto, likewise. And that brings us to adjournment. Do I have consensus to adjourn? All right. I see the thumbs up here. 7:33.